Evening, everyone. Today is September 5th. The time is 6:03, and this is the Acushnet Planning Commission. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for future viewing via the YouTube channel. Can I get a motion to open the planning board meeting?
Motion to open the meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can we introduce ourselves, please?
Peter Guyappa, member.
Victoria Alfaro, Town Planner.
Mark Francois, Chairman.
Brian Deschamps, member.
Thank you. All right, we have a few people out, but we do have a quorum tonight. Minutes. Did everybody have a chance to look over the meeting minutes from August 22nd? We were all in attendance. As far as I'm concerned, I read it over. I found a couple of typos on the second page, second paragraph with the square footage where it says 71,082 square feet. There's a slight typo there, and second paragraph, little typo with the right before, right under Mr. Romanelli's name. Besides that, I think they were well done. Anybody have any other?
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as submitted, August 22nd, 2024, and make the changes that you have presented.
With corrections. I have a motion.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I will sign the new version. I'll sign this one, this one. Okay. Moving right along. Public hearing. Continued definitive subdivision 2023-01, 39 Keene Road, map 2, lot 13B. The owner applicant AMN Estate Holding LLC, representative Farland Corp. Scope of the work, a proposed 6-lot subdivision. The applicant has not submitted a revised plan or response to the peer review. We received an email from them requesting a continuation. I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to our next meeting on September 19th, 2024.
I make a motion to continue the public hearing to 9/19/2024.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Fabulous. Next, we have an informal meeting. 211 Middle Road, map 23, lot 29, dot 29A, dot 29B. This informal meeting is required per the new bylaw prior to filing an application. A pre-submission meeting was, with the department heads, was held on 8/22. The applicant is Rewild Renewables, represented by Bales and Thomas. Somebody here from Bales and Thomas, if you could please introduce yourselves as you speak, and the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Mary Kate Schneeweiss. I'm a senior environmental planning specialist with Beals and Thomas, and I've been permitting lead for this project so far.
Nate Bells, Beals and Thomas, and I'm the project engineer.
I'm Craig Sampson with Sullivan Worcester. I'm counsel to the applicant who regrets he couldn't be here tonight to introduce the project. He's been before the board on a few other occasions and was looking forward to introducing this project with you again, but he'll be here next time.
Okay.
So, I think everyone is familiar with this site. This is, as the chairman indicated, 211 Middle Road. It is the home of the, it's owned by White's Dairy, and it's a home of a number of different existing commercial uses. I believe there's a salon, an entertainment center. I believe there was a pet grooming business at one time there. There is a rear portion of the property that has largely been cleared in support of a former dairy farm. And that is the area where this proposed solar array is going to be sited. So because it's in this wide open field area, there is no substantial tree clearing involved, and the grading is going to be minimized to what is necessary for stormwater management. So this is a great site for a solar project. As you can see, it's set back somewhat from public ways in Acushnet. It is near some residences in New Bedford, so on the rear of the property here, there is a 6-foot landscaped berm with a 10-foot stockade fence proposed to address screening impacts to these residences over here. As the chairman indicated, we did have a meeting with town staff and got a number of very good comments out of that. First of all, based on the fire chief's comments, we did propose a gravel access road around the entire array of 18 feet to accommodate his largest possible truck. He indicated it would probably be one of the smaller trucks that would go out there, but in the event of an emergency, that's what we planned for. And I believe the building inspector raised that there had been a number of stormwater-related concerns at other solar projects in town. So I'm going to actually turn that over to Nate to talk a little bit about the stormwater design, since that's not my bailiwick, but.
Sure, yeah, as the building inspector mentioned, he said, overkill the stormwater design to address stormwater, so, we're keeping everything within regulations, coordinating with the Board of Health, maintaining that for the freeboard, his requested offset to groundwater, all that stuff, so. Yeah, currently one detention basin proposed as part of the project, as you can see in the corner of the site here. Also, showing, you probably see it on the grading plan, is a stormwater swale to help convey stormwater, which will be conveyed with a culvert underneath the gravel roadway and into the detention basin.
Oh, yes, yeah, we did receive an order of resource area delineation for the on-site wetlands. Those are flagged, and we are going to be filing concurrently with the Conservation Commission for an order of conditions. I understand they're actually the approving authority for the stormwater management permit in town, so we're coordinating with them for that as well. And I think the really only ask we would have for the board tonight is just that, I understand the board establishes a consultancy review fee, that we, try to coordinate consultants between the two boards to the maximum extent possible, just to make sure the design kind of stays on track for the two boards at the same time. But yeah, happy to take any questions you might have. We're going to be filing a site plan special permit shortly in compliance with the new bylaw. We've been talking with Victoria about the filing requirements.
They are removing the tee boxes from the driving range before they install the panels.
Oh, yes.
I actually just drove by there just before coming here. I'm trying to see where the front gate is.
She's under the
Gate, the entrance. So this is where White's
This is
Entertainment
Middle Road.
Center, the middle road.
Yeah, so here's the, here it is. It was right up, that's it.
Yeah, the nice thing about this siting, is MK mentioned, it's open, right? And so it also has nice access from the street with some lay down area up front. So, it's kind of ideal for both the layout and for construction.
All right, you made mention about fence before. Can you show me what lines exactly?
I'll come on to those.
Yep.
Might be a better plan for this.
Yeah, can I just show?
Yeah.
Yeah. This might be better on this exhibit because it's shown in red. So obviously there's a perimeter chain link proposed fencing all around the site. Proposed gate here for the actual array. Your existing gates, like you mentioned, there was one right at the side
Yeah.
entrance. There's also one, slightly into the site. And then here is the stockade fence and roughly the perimeter of the earthen berm.
Okay, so what you're saying is you're only gonna put a stockade fence on this line?
Yeah, so there's a
Yeah, and then
stockade,
the
so
how
rest
about
of-
over here?
The rest of that's gonna be chain link.
chain link does
Yeah.
surround the entire array. So there'll be chain link and the wood stockade.
Okay, but we're saying we're putting a stockade here, so these houses over here won't be affected, but yeah, how about these houses over here?
For screening purposes,
Mm-hmm.
you see, so all this existing vegetation is gonna stay. And this also is more for, because the site kind of slopes towards the dairy farm, so with it sloping down, that's where the visual impacts were kind of addressed.
But I kind of follow what Brian's saying. We need to take these people here into consideration.
Right. So as far as a chain link,
Sure.
I would rather see the stockade coming down all the way.
Okay.
So that, we have one in town right now that they just put up, a wire fence, and it looks terrible.
Yeah.
It looks terrible.
Yeah, and it's right on a main thorough street, it's on a main road.
Right, and we have another one here where they put the white vinyl fence up, well, at least it's a little more palatable.
Right.
So really, and I read in your thing something about you were gonna put a berm too, is that what
Yeah.
this, we're seeing here,
That's
that's
what
a
this black
berm?
outline is, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a fence on top of the berm.
On top of the berm, so
And it's there right now, or is it, it's
Gonna
gonna
be
be
constructed.
Gonna be
Yeah.
constructed.
They wanna put up a 6-foot berm,
With a
10-foot fence.
That's, yep.
And that's partly because, as Nate mentioned, the elevation change, so, one of the things we talked about at the staff meeting was, we'd like to try and, we're gonna try and meet with some of the residents and make sure that that's the proposal that works best for them, because if they prefer to have some vegetation closer to their property, that may be more effective, just because the elevation change and where we have to place something. So
Mhm.
we are open to working with them and coming up with a solution that's most effective. This design, we think, does work, but obviously it's, we're going off the side of the slope to build a berm and then a fence, so if there's something.
so that
that's
anybody
better-
that's up on a higher.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, because, that's one of the biggest complaints we have, that people just, these wire fences just don't cut it,
People just don't wanna see.
They don't wanna look at it.
They don't wanna look at the solar.
Sure.
Right.
So wherever on that whole project can be seen from somewhere else, it can't be seen.
We'd rather
We'd
not.
rather it not be seen. So I'm not saying you gotta construct a 10-foot, all the way around, but definitely where there are residents, abutters, yes. On the north side, I think that is, where you're more in the woods there on the right. That, if you can see it from a distance and there are neighbors in the area, again, just take a walk around. If you see that you can see the panels, or you're gonna see the panels, and neighbors can see the panels, even across Nye's Lane, if they can see it, then, it's something that we need to address. They just don't wanna see the panels. And if it can be a fence, you can put up big, green giants, to keep it green, whatever, as long as it's not seen.
And I like the fact you want to hear from, and that'd be a
Yeah.
good thing, to really hear from the residents, to say, okay, we really need to address their issues.
Yeah, they did have when they did the ANRADs, they had a public hearing requirement. So there were a couple of folks that we got some names from. Obviously, I don't know if you know the ANRAD process, but everyone comes out and says, what's the project? And
Yeah.
nothing, we're just trying to get the lines approved.
Yeah.
But we do have a few names, including some of the people in the New Bedford section. It's a nice neighborhood there.
Yeah.
We think we can get some communication going, and
Yeah, I
our
think
goal is to do it most effectively.
I watched the conservation meeting for the ANRAD that you went to, and there were some abutters there that were concerned, and, and I mean, obviously, we're gonna go through a public hearing as well, so, the more you can involve the public, the better off you'll be, and less issues in the future then.
But I've always found, recently, the biggest thing is the screening. If you can convince them that you're taking all the steps to make sure that they don't have to see it, then they're gonna be more willing to, work with you, so.
Understood.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have a glare analysis that's part of the submission, but
Yep.
that's not quite the same as
Right.
I can see it. So
Yeah.
we kind of look at it from both perspectives.
Yeah, I mean,
I
if
mean,
you're
there
getting
was,
glare from it, then you're gonna be able to see it. So
Right.
if there is a glare analysis and you're not getting any glare, then you can't see it.
Yeah, I know there was a sightline requirement in the submission requirements, and I think we were not gonna submit that with our application, just to get some neighbor feedback, and if they wound up saying, oh, we'd rather not the stockade fence, we can kind of change our sightline approach a little bit.
Okay.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, this goes to peer review, same as for stormwater goes to peer review.
Yes, and I know you mentioned earlier about trying to coordinate peer reviews.
Yep.
We're gonna do one peer review and just make sure we coordinate with Concom,
Yep.
internally, and that way everything's kind of getting addressed in
Okay.
one letter
Awesome.
and clearer. that way.
And I think you and I might have talked about this, but I know that the board needed to establish the consultancy fee. Is that something you need to talk about internally and?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go talk about it with Concom,
Sure.
now that I know you are gonna file concurrently. Well, I think it depends on they do it depending on the project,
Got
so
it.
they might get an estimate first, like, once you submit, they might get an estimate from the peer review company, and then that will have the fee from there.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was speaking with someone in the Conservation Commission yesterday, and she was mentioning the idea of circulating a draft application to the peer review consultant for a better price to get kind of everything all on track, so.
Yeah, similar,
Yeah.
yeah, so you can either, when you're ready to submit, you submit everything, we'll get the estimate then, or if
Yeah.
you have the draft and you
Mhm.
wanna send that over, up to you. We're pretty
Alright.
flexible.
Excellent. I'm sure we'll definitely be in touch then.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other questions from the board?
No, I mean, I'm not gonna, I just got these plans, so
Of course.
I'd like to look them over with time. I'm more interested in what peer review is gonna say. Like Brian had mentioned, I think our biggest
Hurdle.
our biggest goal is to keep neighbors and butters happy. I think with this not being fully wooded and we're not cutting down 5 or how many acres this is, we're not clear cutting woods.
Right.
It's a big bonus, it's already cleared a lot.
Right.
We've had stormwater issues with previous solar sites that had steep slopes. They went and clear cutted right before, in the fall, right before the winter. We had massive water issues. We're not gonna have that. We gotta make sure that you follow the bylaw as far as clearing any topsoil before, I think it's like November or whatever it is. I don't think we're gonna get there this year. But, there's no clearing and removing the soil before the spring, where you can at least hydroseed and then, stabilize the site prior to the winter again. So I don't think we're gonna have that issue. This looks like it's not gonna be started until at least next year sometime. So that's another big priority. But yeah, once it goes to peer review and we see what they come back with regarding the new solar bylaw, then we'll go from there.
Okay, awesome.
Anybody else? Pete, good?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Good time.
Thank you
Thanks
very
so
much.
much.
Appreciate it.
Good night.
Take these out there.
Gonna get there.
Yes. These will be up at the planning board office, if anybody wants to go up and take a look. I will be one of them.
Thank you.
Yeah?
All right. All right, so gentlemen, I'm gonna go slightly out of order. I'm gonna jump right down to other business. Earlier today, we kind of realized that there was some solar special permits that were gonna be expiring. So we reached out to the proponent and said, hey, these special permits are gonna be expiring. So, these are for the 1050, 1052 and Robinson Road projects.
Oh, okay.
Robinson Road, Cushing Lane, and the one behind Cushing Lane, and, oh, wait a minute, isn't that one? Mr. Markey, can you,
Yeah, no, I'm happy to try to do my best to answer the questions. On short notice, here is Minnie Mimoso as a pinch hitter at the last minute of the ballgame. So the three that I'm prepared to speak on, I think that, under the law, technically, if we have not acted on it, you could rescind. I don't know that we have to necessarily come technically to say, I want an extension the way you might with a Concom, but we're here to ask for an extension or to ask for you not to rescind it, whatever it is legally. I don't want to go into that piece. But I do think that I've got good news on all three sites for you. If you've driven by, because I know, Mr. Chairman, that you are, as you did with the last one, you often drive by to see what's going on. I don't think there's any question on Robinson Road that we've made substantial progress. It's one in which we haven't had an unexpected surprise, and we've moved forward with it, and it's probably 80 to 90% done. So we would respectfully ask that, I'll ask for them all at the end, but that there be evidence that we've made substantial progress, and therefore it should not be rescinded. The second project, 1050 Main, we have done work with, when I have photographs for these first two, that we put the road in and we're ready to go forward. There's been discussions with the town over the past 3 or 4 months that I've been tangential on, because I'm not an engineer and I'm just really called in when they need me to speak to you all. But as it was approved, our people are ready to go forward. There's a new fire chief who has said, I might like you to tweak it a little bit, and so there's dialogue going on about whether it can be done reasonably with a modification, or whether it would be problematic to try to modify it and what our rights are versus the town's rights are. We're not looking to pick a fight, but I just want you to be aware that we have made progress. We've done work on the site. It's not nearly as far as Robinson Road, but as far as your legal standard, we've made progress towards that site. And then the third site is the most complicated, is the one on Woodbridge, and you may or may not be aware of this, but after you approved it, we went out and began to cut down a couple of trees, and 2 neighbors came in and said, you have no right to get to that property because you have to cross across our property. So my clients have put a fair amount of money, unfortunately not in my pocket as their lawyer. They have Boston lawyers who are dealing with this, but there's been a fight about the rights to get there. And not only have the neighbors and my clients been involved, but the town's been actively involved in it as well. And in fact, they entered into, in the land court, a very lengthy settlement agreement within the last 4 months to say, here's what the town has decided, here's what we are willing to commit to, here's what the neighbors' expectations are. Everybody has signed off on it. So we have not sat on our rights. In fact, we were forced to be in land court to establish that we had a prescriptive right to be getting access to that property based upon the historical use of the property by the current owner, who's going to be our landlord. And I'm happy to, supplement and provide you with a full copy of the settlement agreement, but it's about 40 pages long, and it's not that interesting, to be honest with you, but it is available. And so I think by the legal standard, it is either we've made substantial progress, or there are extenuating circumstances that would suggest that we weren't able to do so, and would respectfully suggest that based on the one that we had no issues with, we're at 90% of the way there. The one that we had some issues with that we're trying to resolve, we're 10 to 20% of the way there. And the third one, we've spent money on the litigation that we should be permitted the extra time to try to continue to develop the project. So that's my little pitch.
It's a good pitch. So I'll add to what you said. So yes, Robinson Road is pretty much 3/4 of the way done, if not closer. Driving by, looks good. We have continuous dialogue with the company, and they are, what's the word I'm looking for? They're
Responsive.
Thank you. So yes, Robinson Road, personally, I don't have an issue with. I do know that you are on land court for Cushing Lane. That's the one at the end of the road.
Yep.
And I know that you need to go through Cushing Lane to get to 1052.
Correct.
I do realize that if you weren't in land court, that one would probably be as advanced as Robinson Road is, because out of all of them, that one had like the least amount of wetlands, that one had the least amount of problems.
Yep.
1050, the one right on Main Street there, that one you built a driveway. You're right, you did start, but if I'm not mistaken, you still have conservation issues.
There's two, yeah, just to be fully transparent, there are 2 issues. One is, and Nate was here earlier, there was an original design for what a detention pond would be.
Right.
I was in front of the Concom about 10 months ago or so, where they said, we have some issues with the way you've done the detention pond, redesign it, you have to make some modifications. That's something we have to go back in front of them for, and make sure that
Right.
they're happy. Just realizing both from the developer side, the lawyer side, and your side, like, we all stay in our silos. So we're not unaware of that issue.
Okay.
But as far as, are we making progress, are we trying? I think that in light of the fact that, first of all, some of the work's been done. Secondly, I know there's a neighbor who has had issues because there was,
That,
from my view, it's unrelated to, I get it, it's
no, but that's actually not to interrupt you, but that's actually is the one that's related to us. So the two that I'm aware of, the two issues that I'm aware of is the one with Concom,
Yep.
which is the back retained strip pond in the back. I know you have issues with that and you're working on that. The other issue, clarify if you remember, is the left of that new driveway.
Ponding that happened.
Ponding that happened on that. They put in a small pipe to basically drain it across. It didn't really work, and then we were kind of going back and forth. We need to figure out, as far as the planning board's concerned, we need to figure out a way to alleviate that ponding on the side, because that is what happened last year. It flooded so much, it flowed across the road, flowed into the neighbor's property across the street, and
Floods out their basements is what it does.
and then there was an accident, the car hit the pole because it was flooding out, and there was...
I am not an engineer, I have a hard enough time being a lawyer, but I will say this, from what I understand, there were issues with ponding there that existed before. So I don't think we started from scratch, that we were hurting an original situation. And it was something that really originated with our neighbor, I think it's to the south, where originally there was a flow of a gully that was filled in. And I'm not here to blame her, I'm not here to blame the board, stuff happens in town. My understanding from the engineer was, number one, that we were gonna make sure that we did not create further of an issue. We were not gonna say, on our side of the driveway, block anything more. Whether we did or we didn't, that's for experts beyond my capacity to say. We also have had dialogue at one point with what could the town do? If we don't want to demand that that neighbor correct the problem, does the town have the capacity, if we bought pipes and DPW put in pipes, is it financially feasible on both sides? Those dialogues have gone on, I'm aware of. I don't want to speak for the town, I don't want to speak for my client that an answer has been resolved. I just want to set reasonable expectations for the neighbor, which is, you had issues before, we don't want to add to them, we want to try to the extent possible, solve them. It's an engineering problem, and it is something we're aware of, and we will continue to be aware of it, and we recognize that when we deal with the Concom on the back, that's something we have to come back to. When we look for our final approvals from you, it's something we have to have addressed in a way that is fair and reasonable. Not 100% what he wants, not 100% what we want, and we're willing to do that. For the limited purpose of tonight, I appreciate that the chairman is telling me, hey, don't think you're coming back in front of us to close this out without addressing those two issues. Totally aware of it. But I also think that as a technical matter, since we got the email this morning saying, hey, you better show up to show us that, number one, you've made progress, and number two, that you know where we come from. Both of those messages have been sent.
Agreed. In the past few months, we've had other solar companies coming in asking for extensions. Speaking for myself, when I see somebody sitting on their hands and they haven't done anything whatsoever, then it makes me question whether I should extend that permit or not. We've also been hit with town council and other legalities from the State House that there's all kinds of bylaws and whatnot that are being created or whatever they're being for the solar. So our hands are almost tied as far as the interconnection agreements that are going on. I will say that out of other solar companies that have been in front of us, some of them have done absolutely nothing because they're just waiting for their interconnection agreement. I actually think you guys have an interconnection agreement. And I do think you have been trying. If everything was just sitting and nothing's been going on, in my opinion, that's a different story. I know that Robinson Road is just about done. I know that you wanted to go into Cushing Lane. We've been out conservation, but I know you hit a legality snag with Cushing Lane. That one actually has a building permit, and you can't do nothing there. Then you gotta go through Cushing Lane to get to Woodbridge, which is 1052, and I know you probably would have started with that if it wasn't for illegalities. So as far as the question of a company that has been trying, I will say you have, compared to some that haven't. Gentlemen, any questions?
No, I agree fully with that. They've totally made progress on all three sites. One almost done, another one sort of starting to get its way in, and the other one, they've been fighting these different issues, but they have been taking on the issues. So they have been trying to advance the projects. So, no problem with me.
Yeah, it seems like they are definitely advancing the project, so I really have no issue. It looks like you're addressing the concerns.
Yeah, the only thing that I know that you can't answer, which probably Duquette or the engineers could answer, is when will we, see this board, see something regarding 1050?
Yep.
Because that's been lingering for some time.
Right, so I think, I don't want to commit to a date certain, but I do think that technically on the back part, the Concom is the controller. Like, are they going to be happy with the way we redesigned that? Once they approve it, we would come to you, guys. I don't want to come to you and then have them say it's not good enough.
Right.
Because they're the ones who really have, that's within their silo.
And how
And then the
far are
front-
you away from that? Do you know? Do you have any idea? of-
That, I'll check with Nate and I will get an email to staff,
Okay.
if not tomorrow, then next week. So that you'll at least have that, you'll be aware of that. And the second issue in the front, I honestly don't have an update since the last time I was here. And the gentleman who's been here a number of times before, he seems like a really nice person. He's clearly upset that he's had issues with his basement. But, we've tried to do the best we can to say, we're not gonna make it any worse, but, if you buy a house that had this issue and had 2 sump pumps before, it's gonna be an issue. And we'll try to, we won't make it worse, we'll try to make it better, but we can't guarantee you something. But that being said, it is on our agenda, and I do know that there were some discussions at one point, because we're all familiar with the fact that for a public project to go forward, it's a lot of money for the town, and you gotta go out to bid, whereas if a private developer is doing something, you can sometimes get things done more efficiently, whether it's us buying the material and some town people improving an unfortunate situation. That dialogue is open. The last I talked to the owner and developer from our side on that particular sub-issue was within the last 3 months, and he was open to that discussion, so I'm hoping that.
Well, that'll be something that will be discussed once.
Yeah, once we have a plan and we can ask for specific relief and a modification, we'll do it.
We have the ability to extend a special permit for a year or 2. We don't necessarily have to extend it for 2. We have the ability to do it for 1 or 2 years. I'm in the point of extending it for a year, and then that gives you a full year to figure what things are out. Not saying that you can't come back in and ask for that second year.
Yep.
But at this point, in my personal opinion, I would recommend extending all 3 for 1 year.
Especially Robinson Road, for sure that's gonna be done long before that year.
Understood. No, and I get it that, you have a role to play in this and you want to keep our feet to the fire, but you're trying to be fair to us. And we'll take what you recommend and we'll be grateful for it. But just, we do appreciate what the town has done and we're trying to work with the town. So whatever you think is appropriate.
I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I make a motion that we extend all 3 projects another year.
I'll second it.
We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
So all 3 of them expire on 9/14/2024.
Thank you. 25.
Yeah, right now it's 24, you have until 25.
All right, I just want to make sure I didn't come back next week.
No, you got until 25.
Thank you to everybody. Appreciate
Thank you
your
very
time.
much.
I appreciate it. I'll
Appreciate
send you an email.
Sounds good, thank you.
Have a good night.
Was there something that I skipped over you for something?
I don't know if you want to bring this up now or later. I own some property in Acushnet.
Hold on, come on, stand up. State.
My name is Derek Adams. I own some property off of Lambert and East Lawton. I believe I might have spoke to you briefly. I've been trying for about a year and a half to get some information on the property. Brief description, my great-great-grandparents developed all the land from Nyes Lane heading north, East Lawton, Lawton Street, Kendrick, many, 100 and God knows how many lots from Nyes Lane heading north. They've, you know, over the years, people have passed away, and for years I've been paying taxes on the property. I was gonna build my own family house there. I've dealt with everybody from Kevin to multiple people in Acushnet, and I've been frustrated with go here, do this, go here, do that, and I've gone in circles for a year and a half now, if not longer, with go to this, go to that planning board, go to the conservation, and I have nothing, it's been nothing but aggravation over and over and over. And I actually came to the conservation meeting last week, and Ryan helped me out briefly, and I've contacted some people, and they're like, I don't know why you're coming here. You need to go to ZBA. Well, I put an application for ZBA, supposed to come next month, and then they say, you don't need ZBA, you need to contact conservation, somebody to have the land surveyed and have the land walked, and, oh no, you don't need that, you need to go back to ZBA to have them approve the lots, and then planning board and the select board, because you have lots that don't meet the requirement for the size of the lot. My lots, it's map 18, 128, and 136. Those two lots are larger than any parcel anywhere in that area. I'm more than almost 350 feet to 400 feet away from any wetlands. Fernandez owns a property after me that he has some problems with wetlands. I'm nowhere near that. I actually had somebody from the conservation come out, you know, just a preliminary walkthrough, nothing formal, just come out to look at it. The agent, I think his name's Mark, he came out, walked it, he's like, Derek, I see nothing, you know, that I'm worried about. I said, okay, well, I don't want anything in writing, I just wanted to make sure I'm not seeing, I've walked this property my entire life. I've played on it, I've picked raspberries, I've like done all kinds of stuff there. I grew up on this land, you know. And now I'm just actually figuring out if I'm gonna sell it, or I'm gonna keep it and build my own house. I've said in the past, I've been so frustrated that I don't wanna build anymore in Acushnet. Which is pretty sad, you know, because my whole family's from Acushnet, you know. Tabor Street and, you know, Cox Street and all that, it's all family names, it's been in the family, and I wanna keep it in the family, I really do. I don't waste you guys' time, but I keep going in circles to find out what I'm supposed to do as far as I want to be straightforward with the town, I want to be straightforward with a potential buyer, and also do my due diligence as far as to resale, again, to buy my own home, or, you know, to build my own home there. It's wooded land, it's all upland is what I'm told. I've had many people, friends of mine in the family, engineers go out there and look at it, and they see no problem, so I just...
I'm gonna cut you off.
I love that, perfect.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So basically, I think your best bet would be to get an engineering firm and get a preliminary set of plans drawn up. You can come up to me, you can go to conservation, you can go to ZBA and say, I have this, I have that, I walk this, I walk that. We don't know anything until we see something on a piece of paper. You got something on a piece of paper, I know what your frontage is, I know what your back is, I know what your square footage is. It would behoove you, it would benefit you to throw a little bit extra money and get a wetland scientist and a botanist out there to say, yes, he's got zero wetland, or this is where the wetland is, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, to do it without spending $1 is gonna be difficult. But if you wanted to spend a little bit of money, you don't have to get a full-blown set of plans done or nothing, a small preliminary set of plans, get an engineering firm out there, and then you can see if it meets a zoning requirement for a house, it comes to us. We'll say yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
So just to clarify a little bit, this is a paper street issue,
Okay.
right, I believe?
No,
so.
I mean, my lots, there is paper streets that run right through the center.
Right.
And then there's a couple streets that go on either side.
Right, and on both sides of your lots, and I've been dealing with a few paper streets, so correct me if I'm not talking about the right one, but you have lots on either side, right? And the paper street in the middle is not improved, it's all wooded.
Correct.
Right. So I think that's part of the issue.
Yeah, so
Is
there's
that
a
the
paper
road?
street, we gotta take care of that paper street situation.
Again, this is the first I'm hearing about an
Yep.
issue with a paper street. I've been told by somebody in the planning to the selectman's office to conservation, back and forth, saying you can either A, combine those two lots and take over the paper street with zoning board of approval and planning board approval. You could either just enter, there's 3 different locations to enter on that one property. Lawton, East Lawton, the end of Cox Street, and then Lawton Street. Cox and Lawton right on the corner there. There's 3 different entrances you can get to that one property. Nobody ever said that there'll be a problem with entering, or you need to take over the paper street, or anything with.
Again, you might not have to, if you have enough upland, if you have enough square
So,
footage, if
right.
you have enough everything, as long as it's, again, it needs to be on a.
Which I was totally for
Yeah.
going to Rick Sharon. I talked to Rick Sharon, and he was supposed to get back to me on a couple different occasions, and I've yet to hear from him. You know, I reached out to another person that Ryan recommended, and he said, "You're wasting your time." And I didn't understand why I was wasting my time. You know, the lot sizes aren't big enough, and one of my abutting neighbors is 100 by 100. My smallest lot is 300 by 270, I think. So in my mind, call me crazy, but this lot is 3 times to 4 times the size of my abutting neighbor. I mean, why wouldn't it be approved with, you know, different boards,
And
you know?
it might possibly be, but we need it on a piece of paper showing us exactly where your frontage is, where your road is, where that paper street, if there is any, where that falls. I need something to look at.
So I submitted, I'm not sure how we got it, was it from the town?
You submitted that right before I came on. I think you got it from the assessor's office. I think.
Yeah, it was just,
you said-
there was actually
just the
12
property-
lots.
Property map?
Yeah, there was a property map, there was 12 lots, and they combined them to 2 separate, I don't know how the town did that, but they combined, I think it's 9 and 3, so 9 lots and 3 lots across the street from each other. Somehow they combined them together, and now
Because after a certain amount of years of being held in common ownership, interior lines dissolve.
okay.
So that's how they
I appreciate the knowledge, because nobody's ever told me
Okay, as
that.
far as the neighbor, like you said, he's got 100 by 100. Well, maybe when the neighbor's lot was built, or when that lot came into existence, that was the zoning at the time.
Yeah, sure.
Now the zoning over there has changed.
Probably.
So now you need a bigger lot instead of
Correct.
just 100 by 100.
Right, I'm
Okay?
sure. Yep.
So, you know, those are other things that you have to take into account.
Absolutely,
Right,
I'm
right.
not saying that, I'm definitely transparent on,
Yep.
things change. you know
Yeah,
what I
and
mean?
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
explain it, and I
I appreciate
agree.
that. That's all I
And-
want.
and
Yep.
You really need a preliminary plan, so everybody's
I
got
agree.
something to rest their hat on and say, okay, this is what we're looking at.
Okay.
You know, so that's definitely the route that you need to go right now to get this advanced, and I don't see why you couldn't get it advanced.
I've reached out to many different people, and, even engineers, I've reached out to a couple different, and I'm still waiting to hear back.
I know that they are busy, and it
I
takes them a long
understand.
time.
Yeah,
to one
I'm
answer you
sure.
or
But
two.
even like I've reached out to people in town, as far as, in the town hall, and some are very helpful, and some just kind of like, okay, I'll get back to you.
Again, if those people, and I'm not gonna speak for those people, and I'm not gonna speak for other boards.
Yep.
But if there was a piece of paper, a plan, that showed what you have, and you brought it to planning, conservation, ZBA, any other board of health, you bring that set of plans anywhere, most of them can look at it and say, oh, this needs to go here because this, or this needs
So-
to,
Right, so with my first stop would be ZBA?
the first stop is to get a set of plans.
So
Get a set-
ZBA actually accepted the layout that I had to make 9 copies of and get a list of abutters. That office accepted what I had, because you clearly see what was paper, what wasn't, and in between. They accepted that, and then at the conservation, they said, you don't even need ZBA, this is, you shouldn't even need this. So it's kind of like one person saying yes, one person saying no, and if I have to go to either Thompson O'Neill or Farland or whoever,
Yeah, I can't speak for the other boards and it might be us that you need to see, it might be ZBA, I don't know what.
I just didn't know what, I've tried to,
If it's a cut and dry set of plans with a lot on it, you bring that in front of us, and we'll
Right.
take a look at it, and we'll tell you, yes, that's a buildable lot, no, it's a
Or
non-conforming
this is
lot.
what you need to
or
do.
this is what we need to do. I'll tell you where to go once I see a set of plans.
okay,
I can't tell you anything.
perfect.
We need,
Without
all-
looking at something.
yeah, we need all the information in order to make a,
And then I'll tell you exactly whether we can do it, or somebody else that can.
So it goes from zoning board to planning board to selectman's office? How does that work as far as?
Selectmen might not have anything to do with it,
Okay.
depending on what your issues are. It might come, I would say come to us.
Okay,
First, we'll look at it. If it meets requirements, we're the last stop. We'll tell you what to do after that. If it doesn't meet requirements, and you need a zoning, variance,
okay.
you've got to go to zoning board of appeals. And then we'll also say, hey, wetlands, or we can look at, satellite photos and say,
Yeah, so
you got
satellite
wetlands
photo.
on your property.
Yeah.
They might be off to the corner, but then we would notify conservation saying, and then they would say whether or not you need a botanist out there
Right.
to survey. But for right now, I can't tell, and I hate to give you another runaround.
no, it's fine. No,
I can't tell you what to do or where to go without a set of
I've
plans.
come to the town and just to try to talk to somebody has been very difficult. This person works 2 days, this person works 3. I can never get.
We're a small town.
Of course, I totally
Yeah.
understand. So it's kind of tough to get answers, and the secretaries do the best they can. And I'll reach out to you when I talk to this person, and I kind of get kind of forgotten about, which things happen. Just want to clarify and
Sure,
try to find
yeah.
out what I'm trying to do. My due diligence.
Sure.
And again, I'm not. I've been frustrated in the past, and I'm just like, I'm going to sell. I just want to get out of here and not worry about it. But
You would have a
I
hard time selling if you don't have a set of plans that
Yeah,
somebody
right.
can
Well,
buy.
to be
that
honest with you,
build a lot.
I had 2 people reach out and they said, "We'll buy it as is, no questions asked." But obviously, for substantial less for what
Yeah,
what it's
if
worth.
you have a
know
set
what
of
I mean?
plans that's
So
stamp.
I want to deem it, buildable, and do the right steps. My due diligence as far as before I.
Yep.
It's listed for sale right now, just to get the word out.
Yep.
But again, I'm not saying, no, I'm not gonna build on it, yes, I'm gonna sell it, I'm not really, 100% sure on what I'm gonna do, but,
Yep.
so,
Like I said, I can steer you in the right direction.
okay, that's all I want, I
Just need to
appreciate that.
look at a set
Yeah.
of plans.
And again, Ryan's been great from conservation, and a couple other departments have been, pretty transparent, but it's just difficult with, one person says one, some, kind of back and forth,
Yep.
and that's why
right,
I'm
but
like,
they
you know
need
what,
that piece of paper to all get on the same page.
yeah.
That's
yeah,
the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've given what I have, and, some people say, hey, listen, this is good enough. And I'm like, you sure? Yeah, that's good enough. You get a rough idea of the square footage of the lot, we can kind of figure out where the lot is, and then you can go on the state website, and you can see the wetland is far enough away that it had nothing to do with me, and so then somebody's like, no, that's not enough, you have to have it, surveyed, and you have to have a botanist come out, and, well, you don't need to do that, you need to have it surveyed first. And the survey says, nope, you don't need that, you need to, so I kind of like, but.
It all falls to a set of.
Yeah, so I'll have the land surveyed, and I guess then have somebody come out as far as conservation to have it.
Have a
botanist come out.
Come out and check it out. If there's no wetlands and they stamp it, that's just one less step you're gonna have to go through in the future.
like-
And whether you keep it or you sell it, it's gonna,
You're still gonna
you're
use
still
that
gonna
plan.
need all that to get it. Well, you don't need it. You'll make a lot more money if you have it.
Right, correct.
Right.
And I really don't want to sell it. I really don't. I really want to stay in Acushnet if I can. But my frustration has just been
I hear you.
insane.
I hear you.
So I'll do I'll do what I have to do as far as homework and.
Come back in front of us and we'll help you out.
We'll help you every way we can.
Perfect. Yeah, Kevin's been great. I mean, he's a busy guy, and he's like, I'll reach out to him. I got to talk to, and he's been dealing with some other stuff.
We haven't had a town planner for a long time, so now
Right,
we
I
have
know.
one.
Yeah. So, yeah, right.
A lot of, some things could have fallen through the cracks as far as my department's concerned, but
They have.
But
I'm sure, but-
then again, now we
It is what it is.
are up and running. and
Perfect.
Give me a set of plans and I'll guide you in the right direction.
I appreciate that. So I have a zoning board meeting with I think that I put my paperwork in the Tuesday before, I think it was last week, I had to be in. So then that's supposed to be done, so I'm gonna try to get that done,
Yeah.
and then just things moving forward, so.
There you go.
I appreciate you guys' time.
You got it.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right, let's see, where are we? All right, we jumped that. We're going to discussions and other topics. B, discussions of the master plan committee. The master plan will be kicking off soon. We need to appoint somebody from the planning board to be a representative on the committee. I'm gonna hand this over to you. Could you
Yes.
fill us in a little bit, please?
Of course. Victoria Alfaro, town planner for the record. So, yes, the master plan will be kicking off soon. I did have a call with Serpent and Jamie, our town administrator, today. So I guess with the master plan, there were also a couple other projects that the town was thinking about, like looping in, kind of doing at the same time. So the open space and recreation plan update and also a water resource management project. So before the master plan can officially get kicked off and started, the town sort of needs to determine what are we gonna do all of those? Are we gonna keep them separate efforts? And see with what funding we have. So I did reach out to Jen from Capital Strategies. I think she does a lot of the grant applications, and Jamie said she knows kind of what funding we have and what we don't. So I am gonna have a meeting with her next week about that and sort of go from there. And then I think we'll sort of decide what we think is best with like looping in together or keeping it as a separate project. I do think the open space and recreation plan update that would be a good effort to pair with the master plan because there's already an open space section in the plan. So when you send out surveys and do outreach events, you can kind of do them at the same time so people don't get this like, oh, there's another event, like then you don't have attendance. So I think that will work out well. So yes, so hopefully the internal kickoff meetings, there's gonna be a few people, with staff, that will happen in early October, as long as we stay on track. And then the master plan committee will have to be established, and typically it does have a representative or two from the planning board. So I think it'd kind of be time for you guys to sort of start thinking about if you'd want to participate or not, and sort of go from there. Every community sort of sets this up differently. Some communities like to have a meeting every month, some only when it's like major things happening. So it really depends, and you just want to make sure if you're going to commit, this is at least a 2-year endeavor roughly, so you want to make sure you're going to have that availability to keep on with the project. Just something to consider.
Thank you. The master plan is important. It's a big project. I'd like to be on the committee representing the planning board, but I'm also open to having somebody else from the planning board as well on the committee. You don't have to, we're not a full board right now, but you two guys can think about it.
Okay.
And then we'll ask again when everybody's here and decide on possibly one more person for the committee from the planning board. I will make an announcement now for all you viewers out there that we will be taking 1 or 2 people.
It hasn't been decided yet, but the vacancy notices for the citizen representative seats will be posted online and on Facebook.
Once we get a committee set up, we will be posting for anybody, residents that would like to join the committee for the helping out with the master plan. Questions? Very good. Moving on. C, discussion on revised fee schedule. Pete, this is before you. We had discussed the different fees and we're actually going to table this one. We had been discussing this today and a couple more questions came up that we don't have the answers to. So we're going to table the revised fee schedule for a later meeting. Moving on, discussions on draft accessory dwelling unit bylaw. Victoria.
All right, so I did attach to your packet a draft accessory dwelling unit or ADU bylaw. I basically mirrored the state's requirements, with the exception of adding, prohibiting short-term rentals, which are rentals shorter than 30 days. I do think to a certain degree, short-term rentals contribute to the housing crisis that we're in. So I think it's mindful, for the board to consider that when adopting this bylaw. I do think ADUs are a much-needed housing options for, older adults who want a smaller space but still want to maintain their independence. But it also could be, a recent college graduate who wants to live in town but still have a separate space from their family, or so forth. Or a homeowner that, would like to supplement their income. So I think there's a lot of different groups of people that can benefit from this housing option, including the town, since I believe those units will be taxed a little differently if they're for rental income. So also keep in mind that as we develop this bylaw, additional regulations and guidelines may come out from EOHLC, which is the State Department, who was authorized to create guidelines, but they haven't said whether or not they're going to do that. So just like with the MBTA Communities Act that came out, they developed those guidelines a lot later and then revised them a few times. So it's just important to keep that in mind, that may in fact come up. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was that there are several sections of the bylaw that reference that you need a special permit for accessory apartments. So when the time comes, we'll also have to hold a public hearing to remove those out of the bylaw. And then also, I believe there's a section of our rules and regulations that mention you need planning board approval for like an additional unit or like a dwelling unit. So that might need to be adjusted as well. So it's just good to kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, for sure.
And if there's anything else that you guys can think of that you'd want to add to this, obviously we're kind of, limited to what we can add to it, but if you find you have any ideas, I was talking to Victoria about this earlier. I'm also in favor of this, but something that I brought up was if somebody in town owns 5 acres, whatever amount, large piece of property, and they want to put a dwelling here, and then go back in front of the ZBA and ask for a dwelling here, and then a dwelling here, and then a dwelling here. Right now, the way it's worded, they can't.
Oh, I was reading, I thought it said you couldn't put more than, if you had a multi-family already on a lot, you're not allowed to add anymore. And if you have more than if you have a residence and there's already a rental property there, you can't add no more.
So you're saying in
That's
terms
what
of the state law or the draft?
You're talking about the state law that you read,
Yeah, it had to be the state law.
the one that we
So-
read, the JP law last meeting.
Yeah, so the state law does say that for single-family homes, you can do the accessory dwelling unit by right. But for an additional, they say for more than one, you shall have the additional unit by special permit.
Right,
So that I put in there because
That's
that's
a
in the
second
state
unit.
law.
okay,
So it
but
doesn't limit multiple
Right.
ADUs.
I guess I'm just trying to say that even if they had that 5 acre lot, there's still gonna be 2 units, end of story.
I mean, the way the state law is written, I don't think that's technically the case.
Really?
Because they're saying if you want to add a second unit, you need a special permit.
Okay, but that's the second unit, not the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, honestly, if we're able to limit that. I think maybe we should consider that and try.
Right.
And then, when the Attorney General's office reviews our bylaw, if they say, oh, actually, this is in conflict with the law, then we'll have to remove that.
Right, right now, the law that KP Law sent us is vague. And it doesn't say just one, just two, just whatever. It's vague. So I was talking to Victoria about this, and I think we should add our own saying you can only have 2.
Right.
But basically, if you want, you got one above the garage, and then you want to throw one in the backyard, that's it.
No.
That's it. You're done. 2.
Two, right, so you had to have the main residence, and if you had the garage with the house
That's the
above,
second
that's
one.
it, that's the second one, you're all done.
Okay. Then I would like to have that added in.
I mean, 2 residences per lot, and that'd be it. 2,
I would agree with you.
yeah,
Now, I'm just hoping that that's what the state,
well, like,
I think
feel.
that may be in conflict with the state law.
Okay.
Only because they put that sentence in there that says, for an additional accessory dwelling unit, it shall be by special permit, and shall is
that's the
typically,
second one.
shall is typically mandatory, so that's at least how I interpret it. I know this is very new.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of feeling this out to see how it pans out.
Right, and what the state is gonna consider a reasonable restriction or not.
Right,
So,
I would agree. I wouldn't mind seeing somebody who's got a house and they either put it above the garage, put it in the basement, even if they did a little 900-foot separate
Right.
little housing on the side, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I'm in favor of a lot of this. I just think, I'm like, wait a minute, what if somebody's got a big piece of property and they throw another septic sign, now they put in a second one, and then they wanna throw in another one over there, and before you know it, you got, 3 or 4 residences on one piece of property. How does one go about selling that, keeping that? How do you do that? I mean, to me, that's so convoluted, you can't do it.
after all the years, the state stopped everybody from doing it, you know what I'm saying?
And now they're saying
It
you
was the
can't.
law, you couldn't do it, you couldn't have 2 residences on one lot, residential units, you just couldn't. And that's been state law forever, you can't. I know, I did land surveying long enough, I know you can't have 2 on one lot, that's not allowed.
No, you can't.
Now you can.
So let's just throw some
Sure.
wording in on that and see if we get our hands slapped or not, but let's just throw that in there and say, you got the ability to have a dwelling and 1 ADU and see where we go. Oh, no, the second.
the second by
right,
special permit.
with special permit, and then
And
that's
with-
it,
and
you're
with it.
done.
Okay.
And that seems reasonable.
That seems-
I would think so
right,
as well.
Right, so let's try to throw that in there.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, Town planner update. Go ahead.
Yep, me again. So, okay, so I wanted to bring up a few different grant opportunities, and I know we are starting the master plan and potentially roping in a couple other projects. So I think that's important to sort of consider how we move forward with that will affect if we apply for anything. So I want to start with Complete Streets. So that's a grant funding program through the state. I'm not sure if anybody's heard of it, but it's about making streets safer and accessible for all roadway users, so vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, anyone that uses the roadway. The town is not a part of this program currently. And what this is it's divided into tiers. So like the first tier would be the town adopting a complete streets policy, saying that they're going to do exactly that, make the streets safer for all roadway users. And then from there, you can create what's called a prioritization plan, which you can put up to, it's usually around 15 to 20 projects. You can put like a problem intersection on there that needs to be addressed. Sidewalk connectivity if you have a missing link there and you want to improve that. ADA curb ramps, it could be such a wide range of things to make the streets safer. So you can get up to $38,000 in technical assistance funding to do that plan, and you can pair with a consultant and they'll help you help us do that. And then from there, once you have that, there's a third tier that you can apply for up to $500,000 for construction funding. So that is only construction and not planning documents, just to keep that in mind. But that funding will help you do, your transportation project. And that funding is available every 4 fiscal years. And let's say you don't use the full 500, you can apply the next year, but just not more than 500,000 for your community over the 4 fiscal year span. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about that grant program.
I think it sounds good. It depends. I'm not 100% familiar on how grants work and how, I know some grants are different than others. as long as there's no strings attached, that, you know, for us to give you this, you have to do this, and for us to give you the 500, you have to do, and then it's gonna cost us money in a different area?
No, the only thing you have to do to be eligible is to adopt the Complete Streets policy, which would get adopted by the Board of Selectmen. And then someone from the staff also has to have taken the Complete Streets training, which I completed a few years ago with a previous community. So that requirement is satisfied. But other than that, there's no, you know.
Yeah, I mean, as far as there's no,
That, the complete street thing, is that so they have like designated bike lanes and
It can be, it's not all.
doesn't have to though?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be focused around that. Like, for example, there, in the previous community I worked in, there was a really bad intersection where there's almost near accidents all the time. So one of the things there was to potentially put like a roundabout, a mini roundabout. So it's just about making the streets safer. Not necessarily pushing shared use paths or anything like that, but that's not to say you can't have that in your plan if that's a priority for the board.
I like the fact of, you know, maybe a few more sidewalks on some of the main roads. Obviously, you can't do all of them, especially back roads and small roads, but
Yeah.
some of the main roads that don't have sidewalks, or
Yeah.
if sidewalks don't connect, I
Yeah.
think, or, you know, the handicap accessible for sidewalks,
Yeah,
that I think is important. I think it's good.
yeah,
And if all it is, you know, we have to adopt that plan, and then, you know, we just apply for the funding, and then, you know, and if we are accepted, then I think it's not a bad grant to try to go for.
yeah. I don't think so either. I think it's, even if, like, let's say you don't use this construction funding, but there's another opportunity, you have it in one of your plans, you can show, you know, that other funding opportunity, hey, this is already listed, this is a priority for the town. You know what I mean? So it does sort of open up that you already have it documented, that this is an issue and it needs to be addressed. So I think it's good for more than just this program.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay. And then moving on, so community compact best practices. I did put this on here because they do have an option for like doing an economic development plan, and I've heard like from the first day I started that's huge for the town. But I do know that there is a component of that in the master plan as well. So it might be that the master plan will sort of satisfy that for now, and then if we need to dive deeper, we can do that. I'm just thinking about if we need to prioritize, I don't want to take on too much, but I do think that is something to consider.
Well, an economic plan, I think, is very important in this town right now.
Yeah, yes, which is what I've
Absolutely.
heard. So that could be one of those things where it could also kind of go hand in hand with the master plan, because there is a section on that as well. I know an economic, like the master plan will be more of a brief overview, and I imagine the economic development plan is going to be more specific to the areas and targeted. But that one, it could be, that one opened up a few weeks ago, and it goes until the funding's exhausted. So that one, we would need to make a decision on relatively soon, whether or not we want to apply for that one.
What entails that one? Is just applying it to see if we get approved?
Yeah, that one's relatively simple. So, Acushnet is a part of the community compact, and so what that is so like the administration office will get a letter from the state with a link of to click on to apply and everything, and you can apply for up to 2 best practices. It doesn't really have a cap, but usually I've seen funding kind of between 20 and 50,000 to do these sort of planning efforts. So yeah, and like I said, there's no deadline, but it does go until the funding's exhausted. So it's just important to keep that in mind. So they sort of first come, first serve.
Right.
I think we should just jump in line for everything, so.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm not gonna disagree with you on that one.
Okay. So you would like me to talk to Jamie about applying for that?
Talk to Jamie about that. I know I have heard the select board I know is in favor of going for grants.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I've heard some of the members, again, like I had mentioned before, kind of worried about applying for this, but you gotta do this to get this, and
Right.
I just, whatever we as a board decide, let's say the 3 of us decide, yes, we want to try both of those. I just feel that we should, one, present it to Jamie, the town administrator, and then either he will present it to the select board, or you presented to the select board, but to keep everybody kind of in the loop and kind of everybody
course.
happy, that we definitely got to include everybody.
Of course. Okay. So if there's no questions.
I say go for that one too.
Okay, perfect. So the complete streets, you want to start working towards that. The
I,
deadline's not for another 6 months, we would have just missed it, but to do the policy first and everything, that takes a little bit of time anyways.
Yeah, so I think we should just jump in and
Jump in
get
and start
going.
working.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, and then the last thing I want to mention is also another community compact program. It's called the IT grant. So I do know our building department does have online permitting. It can be quite a costly expense to start up with that, and they're the only department that's on. I did have a meeting with our other permitting departments today, and I think one of them has to check with their board, but I think most of them are in favor of getting online permitting. So this definitely would alleviate the cost, for the town if we were to receive this funding.
Yeah, because there's a lot of permitting software out there.
There is. We have
Absolutely.
Simplicity. That's what the building department has, so I imagine we want to continue that and use the same, so we're all the same software. The online permitting does have a yearly fee associated with it, so I believe this would be mainly for the startup costs and probably the first year, and then after that, the town would have to fund that. So that's just something to keep in mind, that will be a reoccurring cost for the town.
and again, if we go for it and we try to go for this grant, then, before obviously we start with anything, we gotta know more or less what that reoccurring cost is, because that's gonna be approved by all the powers that
of
be,
course.
obviously, and probably town meeting and all that.
Yes.
But I totally agree, and I know that there's a lot of surrounding towns that have online permitting. I know that our town clerk would love it if dog licenses were online permitting. I know there's lots of things and a lot of people would rather just go online, like they do with the building department now.
Right.
So I think it would be really great if we could, go and run in that, modern day
Yeah.
style like everybody else.
Okay. So I will talk to Jamie about that.
I
one
would
as
talk to
well.
Jamie
Okay.
about that one too.
Perfect. Well, that is all I have, but of course, if you guys ever have anything for me you want me to research or look into, feel free to let me know.
Fabulous. All right. That's all we've got. We're down to our next meeting being Thursday, September 19th. Gentlemen, anything else you'd like to bring up or discuss?
No, sir.
I'm good.
I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.